it was really interesting stuff. It kind of worsened as time went on. I'm also really glad that it's done with. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you guys are new here. Today I am going to be spilling all the tea about how this semester of nursing school went for me. If you guys don't know who I am, hi, I'm currently a second-year nursing student at the University of Ottawa. I'm studying to get my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing, and I've been documenting my journey to RN on here. I would love if you would join our little family and stick along to see where this journey of mine takes me. But without any further ado, let's just get into my semester recap. I just finished my first semester of second year, so this is my third semester in total that I've completed, and I'm going to literally just get in detail as much as I can. So I'm going to talk about the classes that I took, what the classes were like, coursework, tests, midterms. I'm also going to tell you guys the grades that I got. I'm going to be fully transparent, and I'm going to give you guys as much information as I possibly can. Sorry if I'm like looking around. I just feel like this is so chill, like we're just sitting here and talking, that I forget that there's a camera. But usually this is a semester where we have to take 5 classes. That just basically means that all the classes are required for our degree and none of them are electives. But the summer going into this semester, I took pathophysiology because, as we know, patho is arguably one of the hardest classes of nursing school, and it can cause a lot of stress because it takes up so much time. It's very dense, like there's just so much information. So I did myself a huge favor by taking it in the summer, and with that I was able to have the leniency of having 4 classes this past semester, which I thought was really great because like everything is so uncertain and there's so many stresses coming left and right. Having 4 classes was amazing, and I would totally recommend this to anyone. But that being said, the 4 classes that I took were Intro to Nursing Science, Lifespan Psychology, Health Assessment, and Stats. So basically 2 of the classes were NSG classes, which are like actually nursing specific classes, and then the other 2 were courses required for my degree, but they're not nursing classes. So like people from other degrees and other programs take these classes as well. So I'll start off with the ones that are not nursing related, and then I'll get into the NSG classes. So first I had Lifespan Psychology, and if you guys saw my first year recap video, which if you haven't, I will put it up in the iCard right here. In that video I basically said that I would not take another psychology class if I didn't need to, because I really do enjoy learning about the brain. I like learning about why people do certain things. I like knowing all the science about everything, like the neuroscience, everything about mental health. It's really interesting, and obviously psychology encompasses all those topics and more. But this class was different than my Intro to Psychology class in that I did actually find it really interesting, so that's great. Lifespan Psychology is basically literally learning about like the psychology of the lifespan. Like I know that sounds so stupid, but you know, some things that we talked about were like, you know, how we make friends, how we choose our friends, how friendships change over adulthood, a lot of discussion over nature and nurture, whether we inherit certain traits or whether the environment has more of an influence on us, entering the world of work, why, you know, teenagers tend to partake in risky behaviors, how infants perceive language, preschool development. Like it was really interesting stuff. In terms of like the content, I didn't find the content to be hard at all. Like it was very much a straightforward class. The breakdown of the marks was different this semester because everything was online, so we had no midterm. So we had multiple choice questions, and we had 7 every week. We are put into a group and we have to contribute 1 multiple choice question based off of the lecture or the textbook chapter corresponding to that week. You literally do that and you get marks for that, and it's a very easy way to get marked for your grade, so I really liked that. And then we had a reflection assignment, which I believe was worth 14% of our mark. It wasn't necessarily like a reflection per se, it was more so like actually defining concepts in the class, but it was really easy. I got a 96 on that, and I was really happy. 96 I'm pretty sure is an A+, and I was really happy because I did put in like effort into that. And then we had weekly quizzes as well. I believe we had 10 weekly quizzes, and I forget like the entire grade makeup, but we had those quizzes, and for the most part they were really well. You have 10 quizzes and then only the top 7 count. And then we had our final exam, which was a take-home exam, but I have not received that mark yet. But going into the exam I was sitting at an A. I wouldn't say A+, but like the higher end of an A. So I'm hoping that I can at least get like an A- on the final. It's worth like 30% I believe, so I can finish with like an A- minimum in the class or whatever. But overall, like that class was very straightforward. It wasn't time consuming. Like it wasn't any of those classes where you really have to put in a lot of extra work, and I did really like how the prof made it super easy to get marks, and I think it was like super considerate of her. She also gave us at the beginning of the semester, obviously you get your course schedule, but we also got a checklist for the entire semester semester corresponding to like events of the week, the quizzes, everything like that, and it really helped stay organized. So overall, I'd probably rate that class like a 9 out of 10 because it was super simple, easy, and the content was actually surprisingly very interesting to me. And I even find myself sharing fun facts from the textbook to my family like randomly. Like, I don't know if that's nerdy, but I just find some of the stuff to be super interesting. We only had this class once a week, so that was nice too. And my prof posted the slides and then videos corresponding to the slide. I would just download the videos and then watch them at like 1.9 or like 2 times the speed, and everything was good. So yeah, so the next class that I took was, I think, quantitative methods in health sciences, I believe, or maybe qualitative, I forget, but it was essentially just a stats class for the health sciences. I have talked about this so much on this channel, but I'm just gonna reiterate it if anyone is like new here or hasn't probably heard me talk about this before. But stats was definitely a class that I was worried about going into the semester because I have struggled with math and number sense and numeration for years. I was one of those kids that excelled in a lot of their subjects when they were little, to the point where I was considered gifted. But I feel like after like 7th grade, I started having a lot of issues with just number sense, numeration, and it kind of worsened as time went on, and I started to just hate math, and it terrified me, and I just didn't like it because obviously why would you want to do a class that you're not good at, something that you find hard, you know? But I did take stats in grade 12 and I had a 40%, and I ended up dropping it because I got accepted to nursing and then I didn't need the stats anymore. But with that background, I was totally worried about taking stats in uni because I was like, I cannot do bad. So I took a lot of time on this class, like a lot. Like, I show in the vlogs me studying, but it doesn't really show how much I studied, how much effort I put in there, and how much time really went into it. And I just want to say this to you guys, that if you guys are not good at a class, or if a particular subject doesn't interest you, if it scares you, who cares? If you have to do it at the end of the day, get it done. Because complaining, ignoring it, not studying it, putting it off, not putting in the work or the effort is just going to hurt you in the long run. Like, it's not going to hurt anyone else. I know right now everything is online. Okay, maybe it's easy to cheat, but like, what does that do to you? You're not benefiting anything from it, you know? So actually put in the hard work and it's going to pay off. So we had a midterm, weekly quizzes, and then a final exam, I believe. Like, we didn't have assignments or anything in that class. The weekly quizzes were all really good because the weekly quizzes literally reflected whatever we learned in class. So it was super simple. If you read the textbook, there's practice questions in there. If you attend the Zoom, the tutorial, you are set for the quizzes. The quizzes went really well. And then we had the midterm. I was happy because I just had no idea what to expect, and I was super nervous. Then the final, I did really good. I got an A+ on the final. I don't know, guys. We had longer equations and stuff, but we had practiced them a ton throughout the class and like the Zoom and stuff. So it's math, obviously. So math, it's like if you practice it and you know it, it's easy because it's not like a theory type of thing. It's like you either know how to do it or you don't. So if you know how to do it, you're set. I didn't get my final mark for the class yet, but I know it's in the A's. I don't know if it's an A or an A+. I don't want to push it and be like, I got an A+, but it could be. They didn't enter in the final grades yet, so I can only kind of say what I had before the final and what I got in the final. But overall, I'm really happy with the grade that I got. It definitely reflects all the effort that I put into this class and all the time that I spent on this class, but I'm also really glad that it's done with because I just can't. But some things that we learned in stats were nominal, ordinal, interval, like ratio, like types of variables, I guess, levels of variable, correlation, regression, standard deviation, probability briefly, like just so much stuff. I can't even name it off the top of my head, but we did a bunch of stuff in stats. Overall, I got through it. Was not my favorite class. Kind of dreaded it because it was like 8 to 11:30 and then 12 to 1, like in the same day. We had a 30-minute break, so it's kind of a lot, but we're done with it and it was good, and that's all we can say. So now let's get into the 2 NSG classes. So if you don't know what I mean by NSG, so the classes that start with NSG, like that's the code, those are specifically nursing classes. So you can only take it if you're in the nursing program. They are 65% to pass. I know for some people you're like 65%, like hello, like that's fine, you're fine, but it just adds on to the pressure that it's not just a 50, not a mere 50 to pass, it's literally 65%. And it kind of does freak you out a little bit because you think of some of your hardest courses and maybe you got a 65 or a 60 or a 50 on a final, and you're like, oh my god, if I get less than a 65 on anything, essentially I'm gonna fail. And that's not necessarily the case, but that's like the mindset that I have, and I know a lot of other people have that too. But let's get into it. Okay, so the first class was Intro to Nursing Science, and Intro to Nursing Science was basically a class where we learned all about nursing. And like, okay, we learned about like the image of nursing, so like what does it mean to be a nurse and how the image evolved, you know? So how we're seen as like the angel of mercy, and then how we were seen as like a heroine, but then how our image kind of got deteriorated, things like that, you know, about the gender differences like in the profession and why it's so female dominated. We talked about, you know, the founder of modern nursing, Miss Florence Nightingale, as we know, just like a lot of things. And I actually did find that class very interesting. Like the initial history about nursing was so interesting to me. If you guys didn't know, like nursing was very much like a white female Christian profession. It's very, very interesting to think about some of the things that happened in our history in regards to like a profession like this. And I know a lot of people think like, oh my god, it's history, oh my god, it's this, it's not fun. But like for me, I don't know, nursing has literally been my dream profession since I was like 14. So when I'm in this program and I get to learn all this stuff and the history behind something that I want to do for the rest of my life, I'm in awe, you know? So obviously there were some parts where it was really boring, but for the most part, I actually really liked it, and the textbook is very interesting. We also talked about the nursing process, which I'm sure we all know. We also talked about medication administration, how to administer injections, the angles that you would administer injections, where you would administer what type of injection. We talked about indigenous health and global health, and I'm like a really big advocate. Like I really was super happy when I saw that there was a whole section in the textbook, and then we got a whole lecture on indigenous health, because so many people are ignorant to the discrimination that indigenous people face, and I was really happy to see that there was like a whole section in the textbook. And honestly, I think as nurses, like, and nursing students who eventually want to be nurses, we need to be very much culturally competent, and also we need to be aware. So for example, with indigenous health, the emphasis on really knowing, you know, what intergenerational trauma is, knowing the effects of the residential schools, like all this type of stuff. And I think it's really cool that we got to learn about that and that was emphasized. So yeah, that's kind of the stuff that we learned in that class. We had a midterm. The midterm, I got a 78 on it. Honestly, the midterm was hard and I tried my best, and I am not somebody who, like, I know grades don't define me, and I was really happy with the 78. Like I was disappointed because I'm like, okay, it could have been an 80, it could have been an A-, but it's also like I worked hard on that midterm and I studied, and you know, it is what it is. Then I wrote a paper, and this paper was basically where you have to write about a nursing specialty, and I choose pediatrics because I love pediatrics. I love children. If anyone knows me, like I love children. So I wrote all about pediatric nursing, and I got an 85 on that essay, and I was really happy because I was terrified. I had heard horror stories in the past, so I put in a lot of work though for that essay. Like I worked on it for like 3.5 weeks or something. I'm happy with that. And then the final was also really great. I got an A on it. Actually, like the final, in my opinion, was a lot more straightforward than the midterm. There was a lot of things that I just knew, and I found some of the questions to be very easy. One thing to say about Intro to Nursing Science is I did see a lot of questions that were like NCLEX style. So kind of like, what's the best thing for the nurse to do in this situation? Or like, you have a patient expressing concerns of XYZ. What is the best response as a nurse? Like things like that. And personally, I feel like I've very much not mastered, but I think I've got like, I'm like intermediate with NCLEX style questions that are like that. Like I've really found out how to answer them and how to go about them. And I'm really happy and like grateful, I guess, that I was able to figure out like these types of questions so early on in my degree, because obviously these are the types of questions that we're going to see on our NCLEX licensing exam. And so I'm just like, I'm really happy that I was able to figure that out. And you know, I figured it out when I did patho, but this class further proved that I knew how to get around NCLEX style questions. I didn't rate my stats class. I would probably rate it like a 6 out of 10, honestly. Not in terms of difficulty, but just though, like, as much as I liked it, I didn't enjoy the class. Like I really didn't enjoy the class. I dreaded going to it every week. Like I just kind of got it done with. So 6 out of 10 for that. And then for Intro to Nursing Science, I probably just give it like maybe like a 7.5 out of 10 or maybe an 8 out of 10, just because some content was boring, but for the most part I did find it interesting. And then the last class that I took was health assessment. Health assessment was great, you guys. We basically had a midterm and a final. The midterm I got a 94 on, and then the final I also got a 94 on. What are the odds? I was terrified going into the final because I'm like, I did so well on the first midterm. Like if I get less than a 94, my grade is gonna drop. That's like the worst feeling. But I literally got a 94 exactly on the final too, and I was happy, to say the least. Let's talk about the midterm. So I found the midterm was pretty easy, and the final was definitely harder. It was doable, and I mean, I got it done, got through it. It was just like little things here and there that some questions were like not trick questions, but I answered them wrong the first time and I would catch myself. Things that you learn about health assessment is literally how to complete the health assessment of different body systems. So lymphatic, basically, you know, how are you going to assess the lymph nodes? Like how do you know if something's wrong with the lymph nodes? Like how do you know if it's benign benign? How do you know if it's malignant? Like all these types of things. We learned, you know, your lungs, lung sounds, what are irregular and abnormal lung sounds, things like that. So just a lot of interesting things, just a lot of things like that. We learned about abnormal findings, normal findings, how to differentiate which is which. And I personally I did actually find the class to be very straightforward. Some things were tricky, or like some things you wouldn't expect to do in regards to like communicating with the patient maybe, but I probably rate that class like, I don't know, like a 9 out of 10 again, in terms of like how much I liked it, because like it wasn't really heavy and then I did really great, so I was like, okay. But those are all of the classes that I took, what the content was like, how I did. I want to be transparent with my grades on here, and like if I don't do amazing on something, I'm gonna let you guys know, because I'm not an A student and it doesn't come naturally to me. Like just in general, I want you guys to know like I'm not an A student just like that, and I do have my bad days. I do have the days where I completely bomb a test, bomb a quiz. It's normal, okay? I want you guys to know that. I am not a perfect student, and I never want it to come across that way. I don't know if it does, but obviously with videos like this where you open a little bit more up about the schooling and your grades and stuff, people can get a certain idea. But I promise y'all, I'm not here to brag. I'm not here to be like, I'm better than you because I got this. Like, I'm just being fully transparent because I like watching these recap videos. I want to know how people are doing in school. And for me, I didn't have problems with online school. I would go to campus like once a week to sort of help my sanity. There's like a lot of things you can do to adjust to online school, and I think I might just make a whole video about what I do to keep my mental health in check, just to stay organized with online school and really finding that balance. But I guess that was kind of it for my nursing school semester recap. I am really happy, thank God. I hope you guys enjoyed. If there's anything else you guys want to know about this semester, let me know. Leave a comment, shoot me a DM. My Instagram is on here. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. That's all from me, and I'll see you guys in the next one.